Good afternoon, Year 9, and welcome to our last lesson on the on paper 2. We're going to be doing questions 1 and 2 today. We're going on to Much Ado About Nothing next week, as I think I've already said. I'm very excited about that. Let's do the do now. Get on with the last question, the last little bit of work relating to this module, and then we're done and on to some Shakespeare. So your do now is I want you to make 2 lists from memory, one of all the language devices you can think of and one of all the structural devices you can think of. And I'll give you 6 minutes to do that. Thank you very much. Learning objective today is to practice questions 1 and 2 of paper 2. The skills for paper 2 for question 2 we've gone over a couple of times here. That's the language and structure. Paper 1 we haven't. Question 1 we haven't. So your title is Questions 1 and 2, paper 2. Should be punctuated properly. That questions 1 and 2, paper 2. That's your title. And here's the text again. It's the one that we used yesterday for question 3, which is much as it would be in the exam. You'll be using this. You become very familiar with the text by the end. So I'll read it again, just to get us back into the mood. The Star by H.G. Wells. It is nearer, they said, nearer. And voice after voice repeated, it is nearer, and the clicking telegraph took that up, and it trembled along telegraph wires, and in 1,000 cities grimy compositors fingered the type. It is nearer. Men writing in offices, struck with a strange realization, flung down their pens. Men talking in 1,000 places suddenly came upon a grotesque possibility in those words. It is nearer. It hurried along wakening streets. It was shouted down the frost-stilled ways of quiet villages. Men who had read these things from the throbbing tape stood in yellow-lit doorways shouting the news to passers-by. It is nearer. Pretty women, flushed and glittering, heard the news told jestingly between dances and feigned an intelligent interest they did not feel. Lonely tramps faring through the wintry night murmured those words to comfort themselves, looking skyward. It has need to be nearer, for the night's as cold as charity. Don't see much warmth from it if it is nearer all the same. Appallingly read there, year 9, but I won't do it again because we've read it a couple of times. Now here we are. Here's how question 1 looks. Only worth 4 marks. So by the time you get to do this in a couple of years, you'll be very quick at doing this. You wouldn't spend more than 6 minutes on this, in fact. But today you'll be spending longer on it because you haven't really done it before. So always it says, look again at lines 1 to 9. Identify one phrase from these lines which show that not everyone is ready for the star's arrival. They're looking for a quote, all right? They're just looking for one quote that shows that not everyone is ready for the star's arrival, and you get 1 mark for it. So you might want to think about, well, you might want to think about those quiet lanes that people are shouting out. The tramp maybe. People aren't in a state of sufficiently worried. Any quote that shows that. And then part B is it was shouted. You tell you that was it. You just find the quote, nothing else. Don't have to explain it or anything. Just the quote. Part B, it was shouted down the frost-stilled ways of quiet villages, which is obviously a quote from there. And then they're saying, what does this phrase tell us about how ready the Earth is for the star's arrival? So you'd have to unpick that, do an analysis on it. Shouted down frost-stilled ways of quiet villages. Well, there's a number of things you could pick out there. Quiet villages, people are carrying on as if life is normal. So you do a little analysis on that quote and tell them what it says about how ready people are for the star's arrival. And then you get 2 marks for this next bit. Give 2 more examples which show that the Earth is not ready for the star's arrival. So 2 more quotes. You don't need to analyse them, just put the 2 quotes down. So I've given the little bit of guidance at the bottom there. Always focus only on the lines specified. It says 1 to 9 there. Don't do anything outside of lines 1 to 9. Keep your quotations short, 4 or 5 words max. If it wants you to explain in your own words, make sure that's what you do. So when you come to the part B, don't pick quotes out to illustrate. They want you to analyse that quote. Okay, so that's question 1. Do that in just a minute. Go on. You can do them all at the end. So just come through the presentation with me, and then you can do the 2 questions at the end. We should be really good at this by now, because questions 2 and 3 are both exactly the same. It's just that 2 asks you to do, 2 is only worth 6 points and 3 is worth 12, so you do twice as much of it for question 3. So the question is, how does H.G. Wells use language and structure to show people are unready for the star's imminent arrival? You should use relevant subject terminology to support your answer. So this is the one. You need one language paragraph and one structure paragraph. You need to use subject terminology, that is talking about punctuation, saying it's a comma or a dash and what effect it's created, or it's a simile or a metaphor, or it's a powerful adjective. Obviously you need quotes to do that with. That's the evidence in the text. You must mention the effect on the reader, and as I've just said, you must do a close word analysis on your evidence. Now, write the questions into your books, answer the questions and send them to me if you can. I would love to see them. So that's it, Year 9, for today, and I will speak to you on Monday when we'll be looking at Much Ado About Nothing. So good luck with that. Really like to see some of your work. Have a nice weekend.